Hey there, it's Sarah, back to help you stay active 12 minutes at a time here at 12 Minute Fit. And if you've got tight hips and low back, you've hit play on the right video, because today I'm going to try to help you release some of that tension in the low back and the hips. And all you will need for that is a comfortable space on the floor and a chair, because we're going to lay on our back with our legs up on the chair. It's going to be 12 minutes, 40 seconds for each stretch. So let's go ahead and get comfortable on our back. I'm going to hit play on our first 40-second timer. You're going to lay on your back with your calves up on the seat of that chair and the back of your knees on the edge of the seat. So roll down, resting those shoulder blades in your head down on your mat. Just bring your hands down to your sides and just shimmy into the mat. Maybe pick up your tailbone just a little bit and press that low back down. Just let gravity do its thing and start to relax the spine. Take a deep breath and imagine that you're just melting into your mat or your floor. Take another deep breath and then pick one leg to start, because when you hear that bell, you're going to hug your knee up into your chest. And you can set the bottom of the foot on the edge of that chair as you gently pull your knee down towards your ribs. Bring those shoulder blades back into the mat. Feel your low back and both of your hips just settling down. And breathe. You might notice some tightness in the front of your hip. Totally normal. So try to exhale and let that tightness go just a little bit. We're going to see if we can relieve more of that tightness as we work through these 12 minutes. And to start doing that, we're going to take this knee outside the rib cage over towards our shoulder. You can bring your foot outside the side of that seat of your chair. You can bring your opposite hand down to that other hip and remind it to stay down on the mat as you pull that knee up towards the opposite shoulder and down towards the floor. Really releasing those hips. A little release in the low back. Take some deep breaths. And let your body surrender into these stretches today. When you hear the bell, this knee is going to go in the opposite direction. So you're going to take your foot outside that other thigh. And you're going to bring the knee to the opposite shoulder. As you do this, bring your other hand to that hip and bring it back down to the mat, so that that low back is still released and relaxed as that knee comes up towards that opposite shoulder, to continue to release that hip flexor and a little bit into that outer hip, maybe a little bit into the glutes. Take some breaths. If at any time you need to back off of these stretches, please do so. Listen to your body. We don't want to force any of these movements. We want to be mindful in our movement. And take that leg up and gently pull it towards you. For some of us, we might have really tight hamstrings. So if you need to keep the knee bent just a little bit, do it. Try to keep those hips towards the mat. So press that low back down, pull those shoulder blades down, and as you exhale, try to relax through the back of the leg. Maybe circle the foot if it feels good. Maybe flex and point the toes. Maybe keep that little bend, or maybe back off and bend at any time. In 5 seconds, we're going to keep the leg as straight as we can. For you, it may be bent a little bit. Bring your opposite hand outside that lower leg. Try to flex your foot and then bring the leg across the center of the body just an inch or two. Keep that hip down on the mat and think about pulling that knee up towards the opposite shoulder. Maybe we have a little bend in the leg. We're trying to get up to the outside of that thigh. And again, releasing that low back as we stretch. Back off when you need to. As I was saying, we want to be mindful in our movements so that we can get the most out of them. When you hear that bell, we're going to bend the knee and set the ankle over that opposite thigh. Try keeping the foot flexed and bring your hand to the knee and just gently push it away from you. Try to keep both shoulder blades and that low back down onto the mat. And just feel a release on that front of the hip. Taking some deep breaths here. Maybe even pull that knee up into the palm as you push the palm into the knee. Really activate those muscles on the inner thigh and that hip flexor, and then gently relax and see if they can release just a little bit more. We're going to reach through that little window of our legs, and we're going to bring that other foot in just a little bit. So we're reaching through the legs, maybe behind that opposite thigh or on top of the knee, and just gently pull these legs towards you. You can bring the sole of that opposite foot closer to the edge of the chair, or just keep the heel resting up on that seat. Try to keep the shoulders down, and that low back is still pressing towards the mat. We're still releasing tension throughout that spine. In 10 more seconds, we're going to release this stretch by bringing the back of the knees back to the chair. And just rest those hands down by the hips. So wiggle around a little bit, reset that spine down onto the mat. You might feel a little lopsided at this point, but we're going to even things out because we're going to do all of that again on the other side. So for now, tuck that tailbone up just a little bit, reset those hips down on the mat, settle those shoulder blades down. Take another deep breath or two. And when you hear the bell, we're hugging that opposite foot or knee up to the chest, bringing that opposite foot to the edge of the chair. Settling into this stretch, apply some pressure to that lower leg. One side might feel a little tighter than the other, totally normal. Again, you might be experiencing some tightness in the front of the hip. No worries, try to breathe it away. And at that bell, we're going to start to move this knee outside the ribs towards that shoulder. Again, you can bring the hand down to the hip to remind you to keep that hip on the mat. You can bring the foot outside the seat of your chair or outside that leg of the chair. And let's try to apply a little bit of pressure onto that knee, bringing it closer to the floor and closer to the shoulder. Relax your breath. Relax your back. For about 12 more seconds. And then this knee will go in the opposite direction, up towards that other shoulder. Back off the stretches at any time. Start to bring that foot outside the other thigh and bring that knee up towards the other shoulder. Now remind that hip to stay down on the mat, releasing that low back as you stretch the outer hip. Try to keep both shoulder blades down. And see if you can take these stretches just a little bit further as you exhale. 12 more seconds. Get ready to extend your leg up, taking that hamstring stretch. Bringing the knee towards the chest as we straighten out that leg as far as we can on this side. Maybe it needs to stay a little bit more bent than the other side. Circle the foot if it feels good, or flex and point. Backing off the stretch anytime you need to. Settle those shoulder blades down. Try not to let that tailbone lift off the mat. If the stretch gets to be too intense, ease back. Flex that foot. Take the opposite hand outside that lower leg and just gently take it across the midline, 1 to 2 inches. Keep the other hip down on the mat. Settle those shoulder blades down and try to pull that knee up towards that opposite shoulder, releasing the outer thigh. This might feel like the longest 40 seconds of your whole 12 minutes, so if you need to back off, you can. Might be intense for some of us. In 8 seconds, we get to bend the knee, set the ankle on that opposite thigh. Let it go. Rest the ankle on the thigh. Flexing that foot, gently push the knee away from you. Settle those shoulder blades back down. Try to feel your entire spine connecting to the floor. 20 more seconds. Maybe apply a little bit more pressure to that inner thigh, pushing that knee just a little further. In 5 seconds, we're going to reach through the window and stretch the glute and the outer hip. So you can grab behind the thigh, you can grab on top of the knee, you can pull those knees in as far as you like. Maybe they come so far that the sole of the foot comes to the edge of the seat. Maybe that heel needs to stay on the chair. Try to settle your tailbone down and both shoulder blades. Maybe gently push the knee out just a little bit with the elbow. Take some deep breaths. At the bell, we're going to release these legs back to the chair. Bending those knees to 90 degrees, set the calves down, bring those hands down by the hips, and settle your spine into the mat. Start to hug both knees up towards your chest, maybe bringing both soles of the feet towards the edge of that chair. And just give yourself a giant hug. Again, we're trying to keep the spine long onto the floor. And maybe roll side to side, releasing that low back just a little bit more. At the bell, we're going to reach behind the legs, keeping those knees bent towards the chest. Just clasp your opposite elbows and then bend those knees with the calves resting over those forearms. Knees towards the chest and just rock side to side. Like gravity, pull that tailbone towards the floor. Let your shoulders fall away from your ears and then down towards the mat. For 12 more seconds.
Activity completed.
There is your 12 minutes of mobility today. You can set those legs back down on the chair. If it feels good, just rest here for a second. Hopefully you feel a little looser, a little less tight. And now maybe you're ready to get on with your day, or maybe you have 12 more minutes and you'd like to hit play on another video. Or do that one again and see if you can take those stretches just a little bit further. Thanks for joining me. Hope to see you again soon.